Hey there, folks. I'm Isaac, and I'm descending darkly.
And I'm Claire, and I am just a little ghost.
And this is Make That Game,
where we pitch the latest,
the greatest
new video game ideas
that won't ever exist, won't ever get made. That's the...
Yeah. You were overthinking it.
Man. Exist is such a spookier word.
It is a spookier word, and I think it's good to use spookier words.
Because today is...
a few days before Halloween.
Yeah. Unless you're listening to it on Halloween, which is
be.
potentially possible because we're releasing this before Halloween.
That's true. It's possible and maybe even encouraged. But
yeah,
if it's not Halloween, you can still listen.
If you're listening, well, if it's after Halloween, I'm going to decree if it is October 29th. No, that's stupid. Imagine if
October 29th is today, is the day we're releasing this podcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, if it's that, then stop listening now and come back to it on Halloween. But that's dumb. Don't do that.
No, don't
just
do that.
Finish listening.
Yes. But also happy Life is Strange Double Exposure release day to those who celebrate.
That's a day. Wow, it's out today.
Yeah.
We're obviously recording beforehand.
Yeah, we never actually record on the Tuesday it releases. That would be really hard.
Because it releases at 9 a.m.
So we'd be getting up at like 4 a.m. to record, edit, and release it.
So yeah, at this point, neither of us have played Life is Strange.
Well, no, and even on the day of, I doubt
That's
I'll
true.
have played it. My plan is to play it over a weekend. And actually, really luckily, November, for like the weekend after this episode releases, is like our first free weekend of the fall. So I can really hunker down.
Hooray. Freedom.
And play the game. Yeah. I am sad because I don't know what console I'm going to be playing it on, but...
Unknowable. Literally unknowable.
They messed up.
They should be forced to announce, like, Steam Deck, like, Steam should make it, like, you have to determine if your Steam Deck compatible
immediately
beforehand. like.
Yeah, so here's the issue. Can I just get into the issue?
Yeah, let's talk about the issue.
The issue is, so I played all the Life is Strange games on a PS4.
Yeah.
That was where I played. And I'm like, I'm going to continue the tradition. I'm going to get the new one on PlayStation. However, the new one is only on PlayStation 5. It is not on 4. So we don't have a PS5. We talked about it. It does not make sense for us to get one because we really don't play a lot of PlayStation games. Yeah. And the ones that we do, we can still play on the 4 right now. So like,
yeah.
Not really worth it for one single game. But they said it was going to release on the Switch. And I said, great. We love a Switch. I play Switch all the time. Then I found out that you can only play the standard edition on the Switch. You can't play the deluxe. And I want the deluxe because it has extra cat content. I might just have to give up on that. That might be what happens. So I was like, fine, I'll get it on Steam because, yeah, you can't, I'll just get it on Steam. I'll play it on my laptop. It'll be fine. Come to find out, it's only for Windows.
Mm-hmm.
Are you kidding me right now?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yep.
Like, gamers can have Macs. I don't know why this doesn't seem to be real. Like,
well, the gamers that have Macs, they use emulators to emulate Windows to play their games.
They should stop doing that so that we can demand Mac OS development. They're making it worse for us, for other people.
Yeah.
By making their own workarounds instead of demanding better releases. So now we're trying to see if it actually makes sense to get it on the Steam Deck, or maybe I'll just suck it up and save the money and play it on standard and not get the spooky outfit pack or the cat content.
We need the cat content.
I really want the cat content.
Note for game designers. Cat content.
Yeah, it's...
The end.
You can make
Episode over.
All right, well, we're not actually here to talk about my woes. We are here to talk about is pitching game ideas. So, and because it is a little close to the spookiest time of the year, we thought we would pitch some spooky games.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, Isaac, do you have a spooky game?
I do.
Okay.
It's called The Grand Pumpkin Parade.
Oh, love it already.
You play a spooky haunted pumpkin, and your goal is to conquer the world. And the way that you do this is you assemble an army of pumpkins. You start by stealing pumpkins off people's doorsteps.
Oh, no.
Because that's the only thing that you have the power to take.
And you are a pumpkin.
You are a pumpkin. Okay. You're rolling around.
Okay.
You are a pumpkin. You roll around, and like basically like when you touch or when you are near and like use an ability or something, other pumpkins also like your power expands into them. They become pumpkins.
Okay.
In your parade.
Yeah.
And then they roll around with you. They follow you around. You can give them orders to like attack things, etc. And so as you gain more pumpkins, like you porch pirate a couple pumpkins.
Yeah.
All right. As you gain more, you gain more ability to like do property damage and stuff.
Okay.
So you can break into stores and like you can get the pumpkins from them. You can go to farms, you can get or like gardens, and you can get pumpkins out of people's gardens. Well, probably gardens is before stores because stores would have like security and more people. So like, you steal it from people's porches.
Yep.
Then you can like bust down fences to get into gardens and like take more pumpkins. And then you can like bust down store doors.
Are you getting bigger?
No.
Okay.
No. Your parade is getting bigger.
Okay, gotcha.
And like you can like bust open cars and stuff. So like when you're first starting, like when you're only a couple pumpkins aren't scary. Like people are just gonna like, oh, cute, a pumpkin. Oh, let me go grab that for my own thing. And they'll like be able to steal pumpkins from like your swarm.
Oh, that's funny.
So like that's the first tier of enemies that you'll have to like combat. So as your pumpkin swarm gets bigger and you're like busting into stores and like taking all the pumpkins from the shelves of those, like then the cops get involved and then like you're like they're shooting at your pumpkins and like you've got a swarm of pumpkins like bashing into them and rolling them over and stuff. And then, you get to the level of like pumpkin factory farms. Right?
Oh,
I don't know if factory farm is like the right word, but like the our thing is that we do the most efficient pumpkin growing possible, etc. And then like the military gets involved. So now tanks are fighting you and you're rolling pumpkins out of. And now the extra thing that's going on here, it's not just you are collecting as many pumpkins as possible. The faces and stuff that you carve into the pumpkins.
Oh, so that's a separate part of the game?
That's a separate part of the game.
Okay.
That affects your pumpkin's actual stats. Like an uncarved pumpkin is just a pumpkin, but you can give them different powers with like different faces and like carvings and stuff. But in order to collect these carvings, you need to find pumpkins that have been carved already to like learn that pattern. And then you can carve whatever pumpkin in your swarm into that pattern. But in order to carve them, you need to collect knives as well.
Okay.
So,
wow, there's a lot going on.
Yeah. Well, to give the gameplay like depth is my goal there. So the idea is...
Because I feel like you have so many pumpkins, you can't carve them all, right? Like that would take so long. That would be so much of gameplay.
So you're not actually like carving a pumpkin is like an inventory menu option. Like you go into you have like some kind of like pause screen, like review swarm or something. And like you can select pumpkins in your swarm, like en masse and press the A button to carve like 30 pumpkins with a single face or something. So the fact that you have to collect like different faces to carve means that there's still like you're still encouraged, like even when you're a large swarm, to like find new like porches. Like even though that's like a low level thing to do, like it's still, even though you're high level / end game, you're still encouraged to like seek out new potential carvings and do like early game stuff. So that's what that's doing there.
But they're uncarved, right? When you're getting that, or no?
Some of them are, but some of the ones that you find on like porches are already carved because like who puts an uncarved?
The carving is throwing me off a little. I was following you, and then I kind of lost you. But
you lost me. Okay, so the carving thing is like the leveling up.
Like if you're getting carved pumpkins on porches early game, and they're worth enough to go back in late game, then aren't they like too overpowered for early game?
No, because what you're getting is like the recipe for a carving. So like you can't carve like a scary face pumpkin until you found a scary face pumpkin in the wild, right? And the way that you do that is like you find it. You find some, like a human has carved a scary face pumpkin, and then once you find one of those, then you can carve any uncarved pumpkins.
So you find one of those, and then what do you do to get to carve more?
You go into like your pause menu basically, and you select the pumpkins that you want to carve, and you say carve these with scary face.
Okay, and then what?
They get improved stats.
Okay, and you got to collect knives. So, like, does it use knife resource?
Yes, yeah. So, yes, that's the other thing. The knives are to, like, limit. So it's like, okay, you've got 1,000 pumpkins, and you find the scary face design, and obviously your natural inclination, because faces like give extra stats and stuff. Oh, scary face is pretty good. I'm going to take all my 1,000 uncarved pumpkins and give them scary face. But you need 1,000 knives in order
And
to
you
do
also
that.
can't, I would assume you can't recarve a pumpkin either.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so pumpkins have to get smashed, and then you have to find new ones in order to like replace faces.
Okay.
Too.
I guess, yeah, the only issue I was saying with that is like, even if it's random, they all have different like stats, right? So like once you find the best face stat, you're not really like, see, I'm breaking the game. I'm doing the player thing. Like once you find the best face stat, why would you keep going back?
Well, then at that point you wouldn't.
Okay.
Unless
so if
you
it's
don't
random,
know that it's the best
well, I'm
stat.
saying like if it's random, then that you could end the game in like a second.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, that's fine.
Well,
you still
so
have
yeah,
to...
what is okay, so yeah, so going back to it, then what is the like when do you know your army is complete?
When you've conquered the entire world.
Mm-hmm, okay.
Yeah, when you've defeated all enemies, when your pumpkin parade has gone through the entire globe and you've destroyed all of the world's governments.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and you've got a haunted wasteland of a pumpkin patch on the entire planet.
Wow.
Yeah, you win when humanity loses.
Wow, that's a long game.
Yeah. Well, it could be. I don't know how long it would actually take. I'm envisioning like
I mean,
each,
I guess
like,
that it's an
run.
exponentially growing pumpkin
Yeah,
army,
like
so
the way that I look at it is kind of like Katamari Damacy.
that's what I was thinking of when you were describing
Okay.
it initially.
Yeah, where
Which
it's
is
like
a
the
game.
same kind of like snowball-y mechanics.
It's
where
a
like,
game where you roll around and you collect things and get bigger and bigger and bigger.
right, and I consider it very similar snowball-y mechanics. Like you start off really small, like some levels you start off like you're the size of a mouse and you're rolling up,
Well, but you're not
candy bars and stuff.
Oh, okay, you're talking about
and then
Katamari.
like by the end of the level, you're like rolling skyscrapers around.
Yeah, but in this case, you're not getting physically bigger.
No,
Yeah,
no,
Your
your
army
swarm is getting bigger.
your swarm. Your parade.
Yeah, it's just the same like
Okay.
snowball
Yeah,
mechanic.
no, I think it's fun. I think the vibes are good. I really like. Well, at first when you said it, I thought it was going to be a Halloween parade management game, so I did get a little excited about that. But
Sorry.
but yeah, it's cool. I still struggle a little with the carving and face finding mechanic, but I think you explained it really well.
Thank you.
I'm just not sure how I would enjoy it.
All right.
But I like the rest of it. It's very cool.
Nice. What's your game idea?
My game idea is called Ghost Rules.
Okay.
And the idea is it's a level-based game where you play as a ghost, but each level has different rules for what the ghost can do, because almost every like piece of media that talks about ghosts has like differing rules for ghosts.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the game. So like level 1, you'd be like a really classic ghost. Like maybe you can like go through walls, but you can't interact with anything like human. So you have to do like ghosty things. Then in another one, maybe you can't travel through walls, and you have to wait till people like open doors for you and things like that. Then in another one, you can affect like physical objects, and then in another one, you can like possess people. You see.
Some levels you can't go. You can only go through corners. Some levels you can't go through corners.
Yeah. So it's kind of like.
Wait, can you make a house that's only corners? I guess a star-shaped house.
Well, I wouldn't
versus
say
a
it's
hexagon.
only corners, because there's always going to be a wall between the corners.
But if you make it smaller than a ghost,
I mean, that really asks the question: what is a corner? Like you really get you get a little philosophical there.
like you can even change that between. You can even change that between missions.
Yeah,
like it could be a different rule. Like, a corner is a 90-degree angle specifically.
So yeah, the idea is that you're a ghost, and I don't know what your ghostly goal is. Maybe like to a very classic like complete your.
I assume that it would just be like to get to the person like in the house and scare them.
Oh, I like that. Okay, like a specific person. Maybe that's your like. A lot of the ghost lore is that they have some unfinished business. So your unfinished business is scare this person, because you're going to run into other people, I think, during each level. And you might scare them or possess them or something. But like you need to get to this one specific person, which would be the final quote unquote boss.
I like the idea that like if you encounter someone who's not your target, they like call an exorcist or something, and then you have to like dodge the exorcist.
Maybe what'd be fun is like the exorcist shows up on like level 3, and then because there's different rules for exorcists too. So like in some levels, like they can get rid of you by like a cross, and in some they have to like chant, and it's like, so you kind of, I think the idea is to keep you on your toes. Like you feel like you get, I mean, it would be a very frustrating game to play, and I might not even like it. But you would get like the hang of a level, you'd beat it, and then suddenly you'd be like, wait, I can't do that. Wait, what do I do? Wait, how do I do this? Yeah,
realistically, from the way that we normally talk about like video game and like design and stuff, every level would almost be its own game because the rules are really like the design and mechanics of the game.
Yeah, I know, it is kind of like
so
that.
Like,
it's a big boy game. It's got a lot to go on.
It's a big boy game.
What I meant is it's like something big to tackle. So if you were gonna make it, it would be like making, like you said, like 8 different games basically.
Yeah, with extreme you would. Yeah, every level would effectively be its own game. Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, like I said, I probably would get really, really frustrated if I was playing this game, and I don't think I would necessarily like it. But we don't pitch games because we like them. We pitch them because we want to talk about them.
That's true. We do.
I wasn't too mean about your game, was I?
No.
Okay. I wasn't mean?
No.
Okay, cool. Well, I mean, I don't know. Like, that's kind of the game I have.
What was it called? Ghost Rules. Okay, sorry. Okay, well then, we've pitched our games. It's time to do a little bit of a deeper dive.
We're going to dive deep. We're going to discuss.
Do we have a spooky discussion topic?
We do. We are going to discuss what makes a horror game.
Oh, okay. If you remember from maybe a couple weeks ago, we talked about genres and how genres are like a collection of mechanics. So I guess we're going to talk about like what collection of mechanics
makes horror. And I mean, in that discussion about genre, we kind of talked about, like, I was like, well, I don't know. To me, like, fantasy can be a genre, and like adventure game is a genre. And we decided that adventure game is more genre than like.
Yeah, whereas fantasy is like a theming.
Right. But I feel kind of, I mean, we're going to, we'll discuss it through, but like my thing is I feel like horror is more akin to fantasy than mechanic based. But I don't know, maybe not.
Okay, so you think that horror is more
it's
of
like a vibe, not a mechanic. But
so
let's talk about it.
Okay, yeah. I think that horror more falls in line with like the definition that we proposed for like video game genre,
which is like adventure, action, RPG.
Yeah, because
RTS.
Yeah, RTS. So horror games generally have their mechanic conventions, right? And that's why I would say that it's more of a genre.
Okay.
If we're defining genre as a collection of mechanics, I think horror has its own collections of mechanics that are commonly seen across that makes it a genre, rather than just, if it's a game like with dark lighting and scary monsters or something, that's like a horror theming game that you can like put into any. I think it can be both. I think that you can like theme a puzzle game as horrific without using like horror mechanics.
Yeah.
But in general, like horror games, from a design standpoint, like from a mechanical design standpoint, usually they have scarce like resources in like combat resources. Like they usually make it so that you can't like really confront your enemies, and often they will actually make enemies like in some way immortal. And like the most that you can do is like deter them or stun or like otherwise temporarily stop them. So like the earlier Resident Evil games, I think, fall into this. You have like limited ammo. Like, yes, you can shoot like zombies and you can kill zombies, and that makes it a little like action-ish.
Yeah.
But there are usually like certain like super strong enemies. Like Resident Evil 2, I think the enemy is like, I can't remember if Nemesis is like Resident Evil 2 or 3, but he's like a super zombie.
Okay.
And like when he appears, like you run away from him, and like you can like rocket launcher him, and it stuns him for like a second and gives you enough time to like run away further. So you're saying like horror usually has some kind of like big bad that you can't defeat, or at least can't right away defeat. Like you have to, like running and escaping is like a large mechanic. Right. Like they have like basically the combat system, if you will, is designed in such a way to make combat not the way to resolve situations. Outside of like certain situations, like basic zombies, yeah, you're always going to be able to like fight those in some way. But then not necessarily like a singular big bad, but they might have like types of enemies that you just like cannot reasonably defeat without either using like rare resources, a lot of resources, or like you just can't defeat it all. Another mechanic that I would say like falls into like the horror game grouping, and this isn't as common, but I think like many horror games will use this. Instead of just having like a health bar, your character will have like some kind of sanity.
Oh, yep.
Level,
We've talked about that before, yeah.
Where like certain things that they encounter in the game might decrease their sanity level, and that has different effects, and that could be like a game over condition. Like Call of Cthulhu, Dark Corners of the Earth, if you see like corpses, aliens, etc., like your sanity gets reduced, and it starts off with like blurry vision, and like you start losing control of your character a little bit. And then at the like end of it, if your sanity is reduced enough, then you get game over. So yeah, there's that.
I guess.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say like Alien Isolation is another horror game. It's based on the Alien movies.
Okay.
The alien is basically invincible. Like you can use like a flamethrower and like scare it off, but most of the time,
Alien as horror as a movie.
Really?
Yeah, I would call it sci-fi thriller.
Oh, okay.
Personally, that doesn't mean it's not a horror game.
Yeah. But the big thing is like you either like used your flamethrower fuel or whatever. There's like certain things that can scare it off. But most of the time, like you find a place to hide, and then you hide from it until it passes on and moves to a new area. And if I remember correctly, I've never actually played it, but I've seen like playthroughs. If I remember correctly, like there are like androids that like have gone crazy or something and will like fight you, and you can defeat those, but they're also like very strong enemies. So you're still like trying to avoid them most of the time. So like that goes back into the combat.
I mean,
is not the preferred way of dealing
like
with.
a stealth game, though? Like, is there...
Yes.
Because there's stealth games that aren't horror, but that would still do similar.
That is true. That is a very stealth mechanic. And now I need to figure out what is the difference between a stealth game and a horror game besides
the way
theme?
you're describing the alien, yeah, it's not horror to me. It's still it's like stealth sci-fi. So
I think
the way I think about horror, and what I do want to talk about a little bit, is more of like the feeling that they're evoking in the player. Like a true horror game would like scare you, you know?
Yeah, and I think hiding from an alien is a scary. And okay, here's a more closer to home example.
Okay.
Plague Tale: Innocence.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, the rats, literally impossible to defeat. Also, the rats themselves are
disgusting and terrifying.
And like they have a specific it's hard,
but it is kind of it is kind of a stealth game in that sense.
It is a stealth game, especially like when you're like trying to dodge the guards and stuff, like human guards. The rats I don't think are like stealth, like you have to have torches and you can't fight them. Guards, you can like sling them and knock them out, but like you can like hide from them in tall grasses or in the darkness and stuff.
You need to finish that game. That's a good game.
That was a good game. Maybe I can kick open the PS4 again. Kick open the PS4.
That's actually that's how you play. Yeah, you got to kick it.
Yeah.
Please do not kick your PS4s and blame us. Thank you.
Actually, to use I'm like starting to think that I'm defeating my own point here, because to a certain extent,
well, okay, I think your point still stands in a way, because you're saying that the stealth mechanic is a big part of what makes horror games horror. Because if you can just battle an enemy, like just straight up and
then
defeat it's not scary. Like,
right.
And I think, we can talk a little bit like with Breath of the Wild, the Guardians. So you have to fight these like big scary guys who are pretty hard to defeat.
Yeah.
And they are a little scary, but I would still count that as not a horror game, because you can buff yourself up to a point in which you can defeat those enemies.
Yeah.
And there's lots of different ways to like kill other things before. And it's also just brightly lit. You know what I mean? Like there is this thing, like it doesn't feel like they're trying to scare you, and it's a little bit like stressful, and those in early game when you're interacting with the guardians, you have to use stealth. You can't fight them. Like they basically like clue you in on that. Like you can't fight them early game until you get buffs. But you can fight them eventually. And like, so I think that's also a good indicator of like what makes that kind of thing not a horror game.
Yep.
And then what you're describing is. So I think it is. It's like a combination of theming and mechanic.
Yeah, like you have to have like this set of mechanics. Basically, I guess the thesis statement to make is that the mechanics need to evoke the feeling of like almost helplessness in the player, because helplessness is usually fear. That's the easiest way to make someone feel fear, is to make them feel helpless.
And I do think Plague Tale is a very good example of that. Which I guess like, I don't know, to describe Plague Tale a little bit more, because it's been a long time since we talked about it. Basically, like you're traveling with your younger brother.
Oh my God, yeah, the younger brother mechanic where sometimes you have to send him, who's
like
like
your
a 4-year-old,
like out
to do stuff on their own.
Yeah, and like get eaten by rats while you watch. Anyway, really fun.
Yeah.
So you're like taking your younger brother across France, I think.
Yep.
During like plague times, and there's just literal swarms of rats. And like Isaac was saying, you cannot defeat the rats. Like you can make them stand back by using fire. You can sneak around, but like if you get seen by that swarm, like you're done.
Right. Yep. And like it is a combination of just like the graphics, the sheer mass of the rats, and like the sound effects of the rats, and like just like the lighting in general.
Which is still design. Yeah.
Right. It's all designed. Like it is designed. Like if it had Breath of the Wild graphics and lighting, even with like the sounds, you know, it wouldn't be as scary. It probably would be pretty scary, because like the Phantom Hands in Tears of the Kingdom,
I would say a lot of those sequences
scary.
are close to horror, because also it early, like you can't really defeat them right away, and they're and you can defeat them eventually, but they're still incredibly difficult to escape and defeat. So so there's elements of that, but I wouldn't say the whole game is horror, whereas like I would say Plague Tale is pretty much all horror.
Yeah, so I would say the key components of like a horror game are basically stealth mechanics and resource management.
Yes.
And then
vibe.
Theming and vibe.
I mean, vibe is theming would be a better word, like you said, like music, lighting, and graphics that evoke some kind of spookiness. I do think that like, so the only real horror game, I mean, I've watched you play Plague Tale. I'm glad you brought that up, because I was like, man, I don't even know if I've played any of these. I did play the demo for Little Nightmares 2, which I think would be horror.
Oh, yeah, because those enemies, it makes you feel helpless, because a lot of things like take a lot of like time,
and you're very
to
small.
do. You're pretty small, you're pretty slow. Enemies are basically undefeatable.
Yeah, and it's very dark. Like it's hard to see a lot.
Yeah.
Which I think is part, like, I think that adds to horror when you can't like see the full picture of something.
Yep. And a lot of it is stealthy.
Yep. Oh yeah.
So I think the difference between a stealth game and a horror game is pretty much vibes.
Yeah. But I mean I think we got to a good place of like, this is how you make it scary, right? Like you take away power, you create like unknowables, you create stronger villains, right? Like that's how you do it. Wow. Well, I think that was cool. Now I kind of want to try like a different horror game to see.
Yeah,
like
let's get you a horror game.
Play through one that I can manage, because I will say I get
a lot of them are first person games. I wonder if Stray would be considered a horror game. Some of the sequences I think are pretty horrific, but
I don't think so.
I don't think it's a horror game.
What sequences are horrific?
All the bugs chasing you?
I don't think that's really horror.
Okay.
They weren't scary to me.
Oh, all right. Well, then
it was stressful, but I think that's different.
Fair. Stress is different from horror. All right.
Anyway, but yeah, I can't play Stray even. Yeah. Maybe I should try with the glasses, the motion sick glasses. We were joking about streaming that. Maybe that's what we should do.
Yeah.
We don't know what we're streaming in October yet. All right.
A pseudo horror game.
Oh wait, we streamed last weekend when you're listening to this episode. Ha. So we know what we streamed.
Maybe we streamed Stray.
We don't know. All right. Well, anyway, it is time now for the rapid fire round. That's where we generate 3 random words. We come up with a game idea based on those 3 words, and we come up with a name, and we do it all in 5 minutes.
And how we've been referring to it is we come up with a gameplay loop. That's our new thing. We come up with a gameplay loop and
How we've
name.
been referring to it for the past 2 episodes.
Yeah, this is going to be the third one
Yeah.
where we do that. So I want to get in the groove of specifying like we need a gameplay loop in order for this to be completed.
Okay, I want to do like spooky words.
Okay,
So I'm trying to find
can you theme
Well,
the
not the
random
one
generator?
I usually use. So I googled random spooky words,
Okay.
and there's like a list. So I can just do like I'll just like the
Okay.
first 3, and then yeah. Does
All
that
right.
work?
Yes.
All right. Cool.
All right. Starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
Apparition, enchanted, ghost.
Apparition and ghost are kind
I
of the
know.
same. What's the next word in the line?
Ghostly,
What's the next word?
ghoulish. It's in alphabetical order. I need to find a different list. Why don't they have a random spooky word generator?
Oh, should I restart the timer?
Probably. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That one, misfire. What if we just ask ChatGPT?
I don't know what it's going to give me, but we're going to hope. All right, ready? I'm ready for the spooky words.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go.
Wraith, crypt, gloom.
Okay. So you might not have heard of this game, and maybe viewers haven't either. There is a game called Dungeon Keeper.
I have heard of that.
Oh,
I don't
you
know
have?
I have no idea what it is, but I've heard the words.
So it's basically like a city builder, but a dungeon builder.
Okay.
You are like the dark overlord of a dungeon. You build a dungeon, you add traps to it, and you fill it with treasure to lure in heroes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the heroes get killed on the trap to give you more loot, to lure in stronger heroes, etc., etc. I think that this is a game that game, but Wraith, like Crypt themed. Like you are a Wraith in a Crypt, and you want to get revenge on the living, so you try to
Okay.
lure living in to your Crypt.
To like bury them?
Yeah, to like get them killed in traps or like kill them yourself. So they are going through like you build your Crypt, and like
Does that gameplay loop start 1?
right. Gameplay loop is you build a Crypt.
Yeah.
People come to explore your Crypt, looking for the treasures that you have.
Okay, so it's like a okay.
They die in your Crypt between like the traps that you have and maybe like other ghosts and zombies that you add to the Crypt, and like you can personally intervene
Kind of like a
yourself.
tower defense.
Yes. You know what? Yes, I'll give you this one. It is pretty similar. It is pretty similar. I think tower defenses have a little more structure in how they're set up. This is more like the more gold you have, like the more loot in your Crypt, the more people are interested in coming into it, rather than like being a set like this level has 50 adventurers that your towers need to destroy. This level has 75. That's like the normal tower defense layout. This is just like if you have 100 gold, like 3 guys will come down, and then you kill them. You get their loot. You can use their loot / spirit energy to like, I think like the 2 resources, right? You have like the treasure that they drop, and then like the essence of their soul. And those can like do different things.
Okay.
Like gold you use to dig out more of the Crypt, and like
I thought gold was like the bait.
it's both. So you have to manage how much you're spending
Okay.
Versus how
But
much you're
a Wraith,
keeping as.
So are you like hiring contractors? How does this work? I'm a little lost.
I'm just like gameplay mechanics, and
Okay.
no, it doesn't fit with the theming perfectly. But that's why I
where
wanted,
does gloom come in?
because crypts are gloomy.
Okay.
Because it's dark and scary in your crypt.
Okay. I think I missed a little bit about how Dungeon Keeper works.
Okay.
So, I guess yeah. What's the end game? What's the end of the loop then? I like forgot that we were doing rapid fire, and I'm like, oh yeah, you're just pitching a game, and I'm like, we have a time limit.
Yeah,
Let's go.
The end game is just when the adventurers eventually overpower you. This is a see how long you can last kind of game.
Oh, okay. So you can't kill every adventurer.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that there's like a scenario where like you are so strong that you exit your crypt and like you kill the world or whatever. Maybe that is like an end goal. Like with enough soul energy, you can like.
But it's like difficult.
Destroy the world, yeah. But like for the most part, it's like.
Oh, and maybe you have to like
how long you
allocate
can
resources
last.
like a very specific way to be able to do that.
Yeah. Like it costs like tens of thousands of soul energy that you gather.
Okay. We got to name it. Crypts with a Z, like cribs.
I want to say Crypt Keeper, but I think that's already
That
a
is
thing.
already, yeah, that's definitely a thing. Wraith my crypt.
You were making this very, I feel, comedy themed,
Okay,
where I wasn't
alright,
getting
fine.
it's gloomy. Remember, it's
Okay,
gloomy.
okay.
It's got to be very seriously named.
Dark in the deep dark death. Death comes to all
How
who
about
enter here.
can we just do Keeper of the Crypt?
I feel like that's too close to Crypt Keeper. I don't think that's.
It's different enough.
What about like
Revenge on the Living.
Revenge of the Crypt?
Revenge.
Wraith.
Revenge of the Crypt.
Okay.
Revenge from the Crypt.
Revenge from the Crypt.
8 seconds left on the clock.
Oh boy. Look, I think Crypts had legs. Okay.
I think it did too, but that seems more like a comedy horror theme.
Yeah, I guess.
You know?
I know. I just love the funny titles. Okay.
Yeah, I do too.
Are you ready for our next 3 words?
Yes, I am. I'm starting the timer in 2, 1, go.
Phantasm, casket, haunt.
Okay. Phantasm, casket, haunt.
I think maybe you. Is it okay if I go? Or
Yeah.
You, okay.
Yeah.
You start the game underground. Like you're recently buried.
Okay.
The phantasm part is you you are a ghost.
Mm-hmm.
You move through, you can escape the casket.
Okay.
But you start in the graveyard, and then you have to put together clues because you have to figure out who you need to haunt. So you don't have any memories from living, but you need to haunt somebody. So you look at your name on your gravestone. You try to find you're basically solving a mystery. It's like a mystery solving game.
Okay.
Of your death and who you need to haunt.
Okay. Can you leave the graveyard?
Yeah.
Okay. So you can go. Okay. All right. So I think step 1 is you manifest as a phantasm during your own funeral.
Yeah.
So you know, even though you don't have memories, you see the guests that you have.
Okay. Yeah.
And then you use clues from that scene to find other people and watch their find them in their day-to-day lives. So this is I'm trying to think of what the genre would be called, but I remember there used to be a bunch of Flash games where you would be able to hour by hour control what you do. You could be I'm going to the gym, and that would be a 3-hour thing, and events might happen.
I don't think I've ever played anything like that, but it sounds fun.
So so it's like a life sim, I think is the term. Only it's a death sim. You have the overarching goal of trying to solve the mystery of your death, and to do that, you go do different tasks. They take a different amount of time per day, and obviously as a ghost, you don't need to sleep or eat or anything.
Yeah, so that's nice.
But maybe there's phantasm juice or ectoplasm or something.
And I think also there's probably things you can't do. Maybe you can. During the day you move slower, or because you're powered.
Yeah, it takes more time.
Yeah.
And I think let's make a rule scaring people gives you, let's call the resource ectoplasm.
Okay.
And that's your resource. When you run out of ectoplasm, you have to generate more, or you get a game over if you hit 0. So you always have to yes, you can go watch the barkeeper for 4 hours to see if they do anything suspicious, but if your ectoplasm runs out, then you're screwed.
Yeah.
So you have to scare people, and that's how you get ectoplasm,
Nice.
in Monsters Inc.
Yeah. Okay.
So
A death life sim.
Yeah.
Okay, how do we name this? Who killed me?
Are you an owl?
No.
Oh my god.
No, we have to throw out some duds before we get a shiny good one.
Death Sim is kind of an interesting name.
It is, but only if you know Life Sim.
That's true. That is true.
It doesn't really tell you a
the
lot
game
about
of death.
the game of death. That is actually funny. I do like that. Yeah. Death, life, love. Death, laugh, love.
Death, laugh, love. Okay, are you a wine mom who died and needs to solve the mystery?
No, I guess not. I was just trying to think of things with life in it that you could replace with the word death. and it be like apropos. No, I'm not even gonna try anymore. I'm done with saying that word. I mean, death becomes you, like the movie Death Becomes Her. We could play off of that.
Death becomes you.
Bunny is.
I could vibe with it.
Okay.
Death becomes you. Okay, 35 seconds left on the
It
clock.
kind of reminds me of Baba Is You, but it's not the gameplay at all of that.
No, it's nowhere close. All right.
All right, our
Final round.
Final 3 words of our spooky episode.
Let's hit it. 3, 2, 1, go.
Spectre. Charnel?
Okay.
I don't know what that is.
Charnel, like charnel pit. It's like a pit of corpses,
Okay.
effectively.
And Banshee. I like how each one of these has given us like some word for ghost.
Yeah.
It's like, no,
Okay.
like it has to be in here.
Charnel's official definition is just associated with death.
Oh, okay. Wow. Interesting.
So specters and banshees are associated with death. Easiest 3 words ever. They all mean the same thing.
I know. I feel like this is like almost too vague.
Okay. What if it's a real-time strategy game
Okay.
and the story mode is like one of the races is like specifically like ethereal beings, kind of like Night Haunt in Age of Sigmar.
Okay.
You have the ghosty faction. So they have different kinds of specters. Okay, maybe it's specifically a real-time strategy where it's all like forces of death. So it's like vampires versus skeletons versus ghosts versus zombies. Right? Like those are like the races is how
Like
it's
banshees?
termed. Banshees would be part of like the ghost faction.
Okay.
Like the ethereal faction.
Okay.
Because those are like different like archetypes of undead. You know, you have the skeletons, you have the vampires, you have the ghosts, like the spectral.
I feel like this is again, it's a little too vague. But go continue. I mean, I see. So I thought you were going with that because you're going to like separate the factions between like Spectre and Banshee as like 2 different things. But if they're all on the same team, then I don't know why we have so many teams. Is it a battle game?
So like you pick your.
And then a charnel. What's a charnel house? That's like a word I know.
A charnel house is a house associated with death.
No, it's like a real thing.
Yeah. A building or vault in which corpses or bones are piled.
Yeah, see, it's a little more specific. Well, because I thought it was cool if it's real-time strategy, like part of that, because all I know is watching you play Age of Empires, so I don't really understand. But like part of that is building stuff, so maybe when you build the charnel house, that's where you like enliven things. Like you build charnel houses as basically your like army origin. Like, because there's bones in it that you can like, that can become like ghosts or vampires or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to, I feel like we can work charnel in a more creative way. That's all I'm trying to do.
Okay.
Because building is part of it, right? Like real-time strategy.
Yeah.
So
building is part of it.
So I think building like the charnel houses, that's like a key component.
Okay. Yes. That could be like a building for one or all of the like different factions.
I think all of them, because that's like a key, that's one of the 3 words. I'm trying to keep us in the 3 words. You went really big. Okay.
Charnel means associated with death.
I know,
Skeletons, zombies, ethereal, and vampires are all charnel.
I'm just trying to be true to the game.
Yes.
And I like the idea of like you build a charnel house to like create your army. So like you have to have like multiple of these, and that's where your army comes from. I think that's cool.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Yes. Just yes. So what's I guess let's see. So gameplay loop is real-time strategy.
Yeah, so.
You build buildings. You have.
How do you get armies in real-time strategy games right now? Like
you build a building and then you train units in those buildings.
Yeah, okay, so that's and so you build a charnel house and then you raise the dead in the charnel house.
Yes.
That's the same thing. Yeah, it's just reskinned. That's what I was trying to say. I just thought it was a cool mechanic. I'm trying to make it cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, in that case, so that's what it is.
I've been trying to come up with a unique mechanic, but we've been stuck on this charnel house.
That was the unique
mechanic. 30
mechanic.
seconds left.
That was.
We need a name.
Haunted house.
Haunted
battleground.
Haunted Okay, all right. 10 seconds left. Haunted battleground, because it's all the spookies
Yeah.
hanging out after like a battleground,
Ooh, that's
continuing
good.
the battleground.
Yeah, continuing the battleground. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the idea of. Okay, we're over the time
But
at
we can
this
still,
point,
yeah.
but like in normal RTSs, like your resources are like gold and like wood are like the generic like two that most RTSs follow, right? Corpses
Yeah.
and like ectoplasm or something. Like I guess the primary resource would be like corpses.
Yeah, which is kind of cool.
In some way. So like because you're like on an already happened battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of corpse piles that's like the resource that you're fighting over.
Yeah.
And building like your bases on. And you train like zombies. I guess, yeah, that just converts to corpses, and then corpses you can turn into your undead type.
Yeah. I think like whatever army you pick, like that's just the undead type you can make.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. I like the corpse piles instead of gold mines.
Yeah.
Theme, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's the end of the podcast. I hope you all had a very spooky time. I hope you're going to have an awesome Halloween. If you like what you heard, you can give us a rating and review on whatever podcast platform you listen on. That's super helpful. You can also find us at twitch.tv/makethatgame, youtube.com/@makethatgame, on social media @makethatgamepod. You can email us makethatgamepodcast@gmail.com. And if you liked a game you heard today, well, if you want to play it, you're going to have to make it. So we encourage you to get out there and make
that game.